Good morning and welcome to Breakfast with the Deacons. Today we have a special guest, no stranger to Breakfast with the Deacons. This morning, we have Father Matthew Hereaux, recently appointed Episcopal Vicar for Vocations and Priestly Formation. He is now in the parish priest of St. Joseph, and he's been moving about all over the place. Again, welcome.
Thank you very much, Deacons.Cy.
So they know you as the vocations person. What it is you want to bring out to the people this morning?
All right, so we're trying to really get an awareness in the diocese about the importance of vocations for parish life, for Catholic school life, for family life. We feel that vocations is everybody's business.
Right.
And so the theme of our Vocations Assembly, our local Vocations Assembly on June the 19th is Vocations and You. We believe that every Catholic has a duty to open his or her heart to the notion of a vocation. Whether it's the vocation to married life, the single life, the lay consecrated life, the religious life, or the priesthood. That's part of our Catholic identity.
Right.
Marriage is a vocation, priesthood is a vocation, the religious life is a vocation, all in service of the mission and the ministry of Christ.
So, Father, how did this local assembly come about?
But the local assembly is a spin-off from the AEC Vocations Assembly that took place at the Mayor Center last year.
Okay.
We brought together people from all over the Caribbean. And this is a follow-up to that, because every diocese is now mandated to up the tempo, if you so to speak, with respect to vocations promotions. Vocations promotions is about motivating, inspiring, encouraging, and supporting young people and not so young to really think and talk about a vocation.
Yeah, those are the watchwords for
vocation. Yes, the watchwords. We have national watchwords, tolerance, discipline, and production. Well, vocations have their own watchwords. And we're talking about motivating young people. We're talking about inspiring them. We're talking about supporting them once they have made that decision. We're talking about encouraging them to go the course, stay the course.
Right.
Stay the course in terms of discernment. So somebody may be inspired, and he or she has to discern. And amidst that inspiration and discernment, they must be encouraged.
Right.
They must be supported. They must be motivated.
So who are these people who you're looking at to support and to motivate and inspire these young people?
So I'm going to use a word in discourse, in terms of organizational discourse, stakeholders. Stakeholders is a buzzword. So the stakeholders in vocations, promotions, you have, of course, the parish priests, the deacons, the archbishop, the leadership of the church. Right. And then you have lay leadership as well, people involved in lay consecrated communities. You also have the Catholic school teacher, the confirmation catechist, the First Communion catechist, the RCIA catechist. Anybody who is involved in handing on the faith, teaching the faith, young youth leaders, people involved in parish vocations committees, because we have a number of parish vocations committees throughout the Archdiocese. They too are invited. So we are trying to register 300 participants for our June the 19th local Vocations Assembly, Holy Faith Convent, Couva. So I invite our viewership, our listenership, to get in touch with our secretariat through 299-1056 to really register, come on board. We have had a number of applications out. We're waiting on people to follow up on those applications. Get in touch with us, 299-1056 or 299-1047.
Now, you said application forms.
Application form.
What is on this application form, and who is it designed for?
It's designed for the stakeholders.
Right. These are adults we're talking about.
We're talking about adults. We're not talking about young people. We're really talking young people if they're involved in the leadership level
Right.
of youth ministry. So if they are youth group leaders, if they are involved at the vicariate level, once they're in a position to motivate young people, to encourage young people in their ministries,
Right.
we are seeing that every ministry is an opportunity to talk vocations.
Yes.
Family life, for example, the Family Life Commission is going to be heavily involved in the assembly. Couples for Christ, Youth for Christ. Because at every level of the church, vocation ought to be spoken of.
Yes.
Because God always calls. God calls you to marriage, God calls you to the single life, God calls you to the lay consecrated life, God calls you to the priesthood or the religious life, in order to serve, and to serve the mission and the ministry of the church.
Yes, because if we don't provide that environment, as you say, for that seed to grow, for that discernment to find out this way or that way, they will get it from somewhere else, you know.
Of course, I mean, it's...
This social media is
Yeah.
crazy, you know. The amount
Yes.
of things that is coming up through that is available to them to see and to watch is amazing. They will throw them off.
Of course, we have to create the environment. I like that word, environment. The environment in the home, the environment in the school, the environment in confirmation classes, the environment in youth groups, an environment that is vocation friendly. A vocation is like a seed. You plant a seed in concrete, or you try to plant a seed in concrete and it will not grow. It's basic common sense.
Yes.
If you plant a seed in rich soil, that seed is going to take root and bear fruit. A diocese, a Catholic school, a RK school in a secondary school, RK class in a secondary school, must be able to bring up the topic of a life of service. That's what we call a culture of vocations.
Culture of vocation.
A culture of vocations is an atmosphere that engages young people, or engages young adults, or even engages people in their 40s to talk and think vocation.
So, are you saying that, as you mentioned, you watch words? Are these stakeholders? Are they going to be giving some sort of minimized training, or?
Yes, you're correct. This stage of building a vocations culture in the Archdiocese is to pique interest. It's to harness interest. It's to move away from what we call diffused responsibility. Diffused responsibility in a church says that somebody else will do it.
And somebody else's business.
That's somebody else's business.
Yes.
And what happens is that the conversation is not had. We must have a conversation. We must have a conversation around ministry, mission, stewardship, vocation, call. Those are conversational words that's supposed to be part of the appetite. The appetite is supposed to be part of the lexicon, the language of people. In the world, people talk money, they talk pleasure, they talk power, they talk so many things. The church has to inject into the language of people words like service, call, mission, ministry.
And when you say church, you're not just talking about fathers and deacons and clergy and religious.
No, we're talking about the church as the body of Christ.
The assembly of Christ.
Right. Hence, the title of the Vocations Assembly is
Vocations and You.
Vocations and You, yes.
So out of these stakeholders you have there, which one is the most influential, you believe?
Well, I believe all of the stakeholders have a part to play
No, you can have somebody
informing the hearts and minds.
Oh, you could have some very good catechist. You could have a very good Catholic teacher. You could have a, communion teacher. But if
The family, yes.
Family
point taken, Deacon.
You say, let me tell you something, Mr. Man.
Yes.
I want grandchildren, you know.
Yes, that has been said.
You know?
That has been said. I have worked with young men and young women over the years, and some parents tell their children. I want grandchildren.
Right.
Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. And these are the same parents who enter a church on a Sunday morning, realize it's a Eucharistic service or communion service, and turn right back out.
Right.
Now you tell me, where are we going?
Yeah.
So it's an appeal for parents. Of course, people must be educated. We must be educated at the level of the Catholic family to say, if my son, if my daughter wants to enter religious life, lay consecrated life, let me think about God. What is God's will for my daughter or my son? Not what's my will for my son or my daughter, but God's will. And so there's an issue of spirituality involved as well.
And we see that in the saints. A lot of the saints also had that same problem with family. St. Francis, his father wanted him to get into the business and all that. And he had an encounter, you know.
God's call meets obstacles, whether it's obstacles within the person or obstacles without, obstacles in the society, the environment. But the church has a duty to do what is humanly possible, to create a rich soil that encourages, inspires, motivates, and supports.
Yes.
So every Catholic home ought to ask itself from time to time, if my son or my daughter comes home and begins to speak about a vocation other than marriage, how open I'm going to be. In a class, in a Catholic school, if a child expresses interest in a vocation, does the teacher say, well, speak to your parish priest? Or does the teacher engage the child and engage the moment? That is the vision.
It is, yes.
The vision is that a teacher, a Catholic teacher or RK teacher in a government secondary school would have the notion of a vocation on the front burner.
Right.
That's how a culture is created. And a culture is created where the various institutions in a society may be open to a new way of thinking, a new way of behaving, a new way of looking at life.
You know, when I had my first child, my daughter, and she was going to primary school, and she was, I think, was in standard 2. There was this nun in Aruka Girls RC, St. Fidbaz. There was this old nun. I used to go and see her frequently, and she saw me with my daughter. And one day she said, well, let me just take your daughter and just carry her for a walk through the convent. And my daughter was blown away with that whole experience. All she could do was just talking about that. But after a while, you never saw the presence again of the nuns because of the, I guess, the shortage, all right, of people for vocations. But that was always in her mind. She would never forget that moment. And I think then that in order for vocations to that seed to bloom, you know, young people have to see, even as young as, like I said, in primary school, supposed to kind of see that sort of how a nun lives or how a priest lives, and to see them present among the school, you know, because I think that is a big influence.
Yes. But before we reach there, we need to think about it.
Yes.
For example, there are careers in the world that people only discover through Google research, through internet research. Similarly, there are young Catholics in this country who do not know what a seminary is. I remember there was a relative of mine in 1993. When I told this person, I called her on the phone. I said, I am going to the seminary. Out of respect. The person said, what's a seminary? What's a seminary? So we take a lot for granted.
Yes.
People may ask, what's a seminarian? What's a nun? What's a brother?
Yes.
What does a priest do?
Was it different?
You know, there are people who think that priests get up on the morning, say mass and go back to bed. That's not true. That's a myth. That's a myth. priests work hard.
Yes, yes.
I work hard. Deacons work hard.
Oh God, and you have family.
You work hard. So I'm saying that we have to remove myths, misconceptions, negative images from priesthood and religious life and lay consecrated life. Our lay consecrated communities in this country are doing yeoman service for the building up of the church. Does the average person know that? Does the average Catholic teacher know that? For example, our Generation S fast, as you know,
yes,
the proceeds are going towards the Dominican sisters in their ministry to poor families who live off a dump.
Right.
I wouldn't say where.
Yeah.
Do young women at our Catholic schools know of the service that the Dominican sisters or the Carmelite sisters or the St. Joseph of Cluny sisters offer to this country?
Right. You know,
And these are stories that must be told.
yes.
So these stories must be told, but there are so many religious, and no more, there are human limitations.
Right.
But if the catechist, the Catholic school teacher, the teacher who teaches RK in a government secondary school, families could somehow get the message out, you find that the exposure to mission and ministry and service would be more apparent, would be greater.
Yes, you never know what that might awaken in them. Like, for example, my son,
Exactly.
he's doing confirmation, and one of the things that he started doing is going to visit some of the homes for the elderly, you know? And I think that was real good.
Yes, it's
to
important.
start to realize
Once you have spirituality, Christian spirituality, you ought to have service.
Yes.
You can't separate Christian spirituality and service. The entire Old Testament and New Testament brought service and ministry and prayer and relationship with God together. The prophets chastised the people of Israel when their life in the temple was separated from their life in society.
Yes.
So it's really opening up the young people. Any confirmation teacher or any catechist who opens up their young people to ministry and mission and service in and through their consecrated life, in and through the priesthood, in and through religious life, is doing a service to the country and to the church.
Amen.
And of course to their own ministry.
One of the hardest things for a young person is that peer pressure. You know? They may have this desire to do so, but when they see their other friends making fun and doing these different things, they tend to be very shut in.
And that's why the idea of culture, cultural change, there are certain parts of the world, namely the Philippines, West Africa, East Africa, India, parts of South America, Colombia, Mexico, where a young man going to the seminary is normal, is congratulated.
It's a big joy.
Congratulated, is affirmed.
Yes.
Guadalajara in Mexico has one of the largest seminaries in the world. Nigeria in West Africa has one of the largest seminaries in the world. In the Philippines and in parts of India, they have so many vocations that their screening process is very tough. Why? Why there are so many vocations? Because there's a culture.
So how did that come about? What was the experience? What happened? You know, it wasn't like that before. And then now it started to this.
Well, family life, idea of faith, the importance of faith. These are all variables, all factors. Of course, secularization is taking its toll in many countries, smaller families. When you get into the contraceptive mentality and you say you want 2 children alone and one is enough, and
Yeah.
this sort of thing. The pool from which vocations come
greatly reduced.
Is greatly reduced. But these societies, these countries are religious. Secularization has not, and the marginalization of God
Yes.
and the church has not taken root. And so there is a culture, there's a way of being and existing as Catholic.
Yes.
And so the churches in the Caribbean, the societies in the Caribbean, ought to create a culture, and you create the culture through the schools and the family and the parishes and the youth groups that says it is okay, socially okay, to think and talk about a vocation.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
It's a lot,
culture, you know. But we have to start somewhere.
Of course, yes. Cultural change takes time, it takes energy, but we don't do it alone.
Yeah.
We do it with God. We do it together with God. And so this is what our local vocations assembly is about. Catholic school principals. I'm going to a meeting on Friday. I'm accompanying His Grace to a meeting to talk about leadership in the Catholic schools that would be pro-vocation, would be vocation friendly. It is unthinkable for a Catholic school not to have a mathematics teacher for any period of time, or not to have a language arts teacher. A principal will be going crazy. He will go, or she will go into a meltdown if a term passes and there is no maths teacher, or no English teacher, or no Spanish teacher.
Right.
Can that attitude be translated or transferred into the fact that a term passes or a year passes and there is no conversation about vocations in that school?
Because you know, sometimes they're so caught up in getting the scholarships and all that. And I remember one priest saying, what's the sense of getting somebody going through all this, a young person, getting a scholarship, but they are morally no way close to what the church teaches?
Or as we say, miss your vocation.
Yes.
I believe sincerely that there are people who are in the wrong vocation. There are people who should have been priests or religious, and they are in the wrong vocation.
Right.
Because an environment in the early years was not created for them.
Right.
They weren't channeled, they weren't encouraged, they weren't supported.
Right.
They couldn't
Inspired.
ask questions. The environment was not created for them to even go deeper.
Yes.
I remember approaching a young man one day and saying to him, have you ever thought about a vocation? And you know what was his facetious answer? Yes, Father, for 2 seconds. For 2 seconds. So we want young people to think about a vocation for more than 2 seconds.
Right, right.
We want them to think about a vocation in and through their confirmation classes, in and through family conversation. The family meal is important. We need families to eat together and pray together, recreate together, and a vocation is part of that. One of my nieces, I wouldn't call her name on air, but I strongly believe that she has a vocation.
Right.
I really strongly believe that. And every so often I say to her, let's call her Jane. I say, Jane, you sure you don't have a vocation to the lay consecrated life? You sure you don't have a vocation to the nunnery? And she looks at her uncle Matthew and she said, this man crazy.
Right.
But I am asking the question.
Yes.
I am asking,
trying to plant that
I'm
seed.
trying to plant that seed. Because the more I ask the question, the more I believe that she may entertain it if it is there.
If it is there, yeah. And she has that avenue, at least, to speak to you about it.
Of course.
Right.
But there must come a point in our diocese where the average confirmation teacher, the average parent, the average Catholic school teacher should feel confident enough to say, think about it,
Yes.
pray about it. What does it involve? And that's what our June the 19th assembly is about. It is going to be 3 parts. We're going to have a feature address by the Archbishop of Port of Spain,
Right.
Jason Gordon. Then we are bringing a school teacher to talk about the role that a Catholic school teacher can play and ought to play, and how they can play that role in vocations promotions. And then we are bringing a family life counselor to show how families are crucial in the decision-making process. Families are what you call in psychology significant others.
Right.
A family, a significant other, provides the world of emotional and psychological support in decision-making. Because you are close.
Close, yeah.
That emotional
Influence.
closeness, that influence is important in the developmental process. And we are talking about, functional families. We're not talking about dysfunctional families here. We're talking about the average functional family that the young person may be helped by, may be influenced by, may be motivated and supported by. So I'm making, before you have the last word, I'm making an appeal. I'm making an appeal. Vocations and you come out on June the 19th. Get in touch with the Family Life Commission. Get in touch with me through 299-1056. All those who have been written letters, answer those letters of all Catholic school principals. If the principals are knowing they are at work now, but this program is going to be run, you may have family members. Ask your family member if he or she is a Catholic school principal, if they are getting involved. In June the 19th, Holy Faith Convent, Vocations on You.
What time? What time?
From 9 o'clock in the morning, registration begins at 8:30.
And it goes on till?
Until about 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Yes, June the 19th.
And so we have the Archbishop will be speaking.
Correct.
We have a teacher, a retired teacher, you said?
A young teacer.
A young teacher.
Yes.
And then we have someone from?
Family Life Counselor.
Life Counselor. Right,
Yes.
right.
It's going to prove to be an exciting day to open up minds and hearts
Yes.
to vocations promotions. It's everybody's business.
And we're coming up on Pentecost Sunday, and so we really pray and ask God, who says, pray that laborers, pray for laborers.
Yes.
Pray for laborers for the harvest. Because the harvest is rich, but the laborers are few. And so, viewers, you have heard it from Father. We are trying the church is in need of your influence. We as church, not just priests and clergy and religious, it involves each and every one of us. So we're asking all the grannies, all the teachers, principals, all the catechists, please come out, support your church. Your church needs you. This is Deacon Cy, more Breakfast with the Deacons. Have a wonderful and powerful Pentecost. Thank you for viewing.
Amen.